Hello and welcome to this week's ILTV Insider. I'm your host, Executive Editor Maayan Hoffman. October 7th mastermind Yahya Sinwar is dead. The IDF is operating in Jabalia for the third time. The war in Lebanon rages on and 101 hostages remain in the hands of Hamas. Will Sinwar's assassination be a turning point, or will Israel continue to face the same challenges as the days tick by? To discuss this and more, I'm joined by three experts. Please welcome Colonel Amit Asa, a former member of the Israeli Security Agency with over 30 years of experience in management of numerous counter-terrorist defense mechanisms. Brigadier General Hanan Geffen, the former head of the IDF Intelligence Unit 8200. He's an expert in ISR and C2 systems. And on Zoom, Brigadier General Yossi Cooper-Wasser, the former head of the Research Division at the Israel Defense Forces Intelligence Corps, as well as the Director General of the Ministry of Strategic Affairs. Let's go ahead and get started. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the country. He's actually extending his visits into the region because he says he wants to achieve an end to the Gaza war. However, as he mentioned, there are still 101 hostages still in the grips of Hamas. Can we get those hostages back? Or how can we end the war if we don't? And what will it look like? Hanan, why don't you start?
Yes, well, right now the eyes are into the northern front because there are things happening there. Since yesterday, Amos Hochstein managed to start the first day of negotiation with the Lebanese government that on their turn presenting the Hezbollah, and this is all the eyes to the north. And on Gaza, on the other hand, there is a stalemate. After Yahya Sinwar has gone, there will be and are discussions, and I would say even more than that, conflicts with people, because you have to remember, every position there is, is a lot of money, a lot of influence, a lot of status is involved. So we will see, I would say, a prolonged time until we can recognize who takes what decision, the political one, the military one. Right now, I don't see, and I'm judging from reading the Arabic Hamas, whatever they say or what the other Arabs say, there is no clear vision to that.
So I have to turn to you, because you and I actually spoke a little bit beforehand, and you had a wonderful webinar through Media Central about a week ago. And you actually said that maybe we would be able to see some movement with the hostages simply because, as Hanan said, there is no one in charge. So maybe some of the individuals who are holding the hostages might be willing to come and get some amnesty for giving them up. Talk more about that, and how do you still believe that this week?
Yes, I think that the moment Yahya Sinwar is off the table, it's a lot of influence on the Hamas members inside. And as we know, Israeli pressure, IDF pressure in Gaza Strip is not going back. We have a lot of operation now in Jabalia, for example. Until yesterday or day before, we saw that the Hamas members holding the hostages, it's not our hostages, it's the Palestinian hostages. The own population of the Palestinian doesn't, they couldn't get out of Jabalia because Hamas members holding them to be a shield of them. And what we see now in these 2 days, that not just the people from inside Jabalia is getting out, also members of Hamas is getting out and raising the hand up. What we see here, it's something that it's more emotional. And Sinwar not there anymore, meaning there will be collapse inside, not just military, it's more morally. And this is the point that we have to understand, that we are starting to win this war because of the moral thing that happens now in Gaza Strip. And then it's going back to the hostages, because if who's holding the hostages, it's not one person. It's families, maybe some group, maybe inside some tunnel, some group. They are hearing what's happening outside, and they see that Hamas is collapsing, they will not be able to hold them anymore.
So, I mean, Yossi, let me ask you about your opinion on that, but let's take it a step further. Again, Blinken is in the country. He's saying, let's get a ceasefire. Let's figure out how we can end this war. Obviously, that includes getting the hostages back. But do you believe that that Netanyahu, that Prime Minister Netanyahu, would actually end the war, create any kind of ceasefire while leaving some of the hostages in Gaza? Is that even an option, God forbid, on the table?
Well, first of all, I think that Sinwar elimination is a milestone. And it takes time to adjust to something like that. We want a quick fix for everything. It's not going to happen. It takes some time for everybody in Gaza to adjust to a new situation where the leader is out, and there was no substitute for him or for the leadership that he represented. Mohammed Sinwar, his brother, is much less known and much less respected by everybody. And many of the other leaders were eliminated as well. Mohammed Deif, Ruhi Mushtaha, and many others. There's a lack of leadership inside the Gaza Strip, and there's a lack of leadership in Hamas in general. So now they're speaking about forming some sort of 5 people in a joint leadership that's going to operate from Qatar, including somebody that represents Sinwar legacy, namely Khalil al-Haya. And this is a new situation. It's going to take time. I don't think that we shall see the adjustments having an impact on the way people handle the hostages issue immediately. But in the medium term, there is a chance really that without Sinwar and everything he stood for, there's a growing chance that what Prime Minister Netanyahu was offering to the Palestinians holding the hostages is going to come true, that some of them at least would say, okay, if you offer me safe passage out, and if you allow me to get some money for what I'm going to do, then maybe I'm ready to discuss the option of giving you back the hostages I hold. Most of those who hold the hostages are motivated by their ideology of hatred towards Israel and their commitment to release the terrorists that are in Israeli jails. But some of them may be more leaning to some sort of movement as offered by Netanyahu.
It's interesting.
You have to understand
Sorry,
everything is now new. Everything is now new, so I want to also note the Egyptian offer that is being put on the table when the head of ISA was in Cairo a couple of days ago. It says, okay, let's start gradually. Let's have a 2 weeks ceasefire in return for 5 hostages. I'm not saying that we are going to accept it, but it tells you that new ideas may come to the table now.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you, and it's interesting what you're saying, but the reality is that, they're saying that around 80% of the Hamas military infrastructure has been dismantled, and that we're really fighting with these guerrilla fighters at this stage. Given that we know that the hostages are kept in many different places and with many different types of families, so number one, why are soldiers still dying if we're fighting an unorganized or largely demolished military infrastructure? Number two, why can't we just send in more soldiers now, take a little break, maybe even from the north, or beef up the troops and go in and get those hostages? Hanan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the question is, and my good friend Yossi, I want to, interesting to hear his ideas. Right now, the hostage for the Hamas leaders, or whoever leading the Hamas inside Gaza and outside Gaza, the main task is survival. They would like to make sure that they survive in Gaza. This is their victory. Nevertheless, the 2 million people that are lost their homes, nevertheless, that the infrastructure is ruined. As long as the same power and may say, we stand for the Israelis, and we are here to continue our march to the whatever they are marching, this is their victory. Now, right now, I would say the hostages, in their eyes, the way they present it, are in second place. They will use it. But they will not let this card away unless Israel agree for a full withdrawal with guarantees of the Egyptian, the Qataris, and America. They would see American guarantees that the ceasefire is under their, I would say, control, and Israel will not break this ceasefire. This is what they are looking for. I would say this is the stand from May, beginning of May. It probably was before that, but we didn't see very clearly because the go-betweens, the Qataris, the leaders of Hamas in Doha were buffering, and they conveyed misleading messages that there are leniency and this and that, and we were, okay, let's go for 1 month a ceasefire, then we go.
Yeah, but Hanan, knowing that there's been all this wishy-washiness and we've been unable for really a year to be able to reach any kind of agreement that would actually, since November, I should say, to get any hostages home, then why not apply more military pressure after that miracle of a 19-year-old soldier assassinating Sinwar, all the work that we've done, even up north, it means showing our power. Why are we not taking stronger military action?
I lost many of my heirs, the last year, the dozens of years, because we have seen the Hamas for the last 30 years and even more if you looked in the roots. The only thing that mattered for them is that destroying Israel, nothing less than that. It is a fundamentalist religious movement, the equivalent to the Islamic Brothers in Egypt, which they are the main threat to the Egyptian regime. And then on top of that, they have this nationalistic, demands and theories of getting rid of the Israelis. And then the Iranians come with their ideology, very extremist ideology. So today, the enemy that we will fight for for years. We'll have to keep an eye. Unless, if we don't do that, 7th of October will repeat itself in 10 years, in 15 years. So it's not a one-time job. The Israeli military is ready for it. I would say, I say that the Israeli military, I would say in the first week of October, understood it and prepared for this kind of
for this long-term war.
Very long war. We didn't understand it at the beginning. I would say most of the Israeli citizens, civilians, we believe that, as you say, okay, get Gaza and get over with it. And then it became clear that we have to get rid of the military infrastructure, which we did. But then the spirit, there are 4 or 5 generations that were raised on very radicalized ideas by the Hamas.
So, I want to turn to you, Yossi, real quick, and then back to you. Actually, with another question. But the U.S. election is just a few weeks away. And it is interesting to note how that is going to impact our decisions right now. So, I hear what Hanan is saying. We know this is a long war. We can't just go in and use military. Hamas is strong. But how much do you believe that that is the case versus, for example, us sort of, making decisions based on the fact that there are some shifts getting ready to potentially take place in the United States? Yossi?
I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to decide our policy vis-a-vis Hamas based on the elections in the United States. Because first of all, we don't know what's going to happen, and then again, both Trump and Kamala Harris want us to finish the war as soon as possible. Maybe not exactly with the same result, but to finish the war, to end the war. So this is not a consideration. We have to decide whether we want to put more power and to build on our success in eliminating Sinwar now and to take over the responsibility for controlling of Gaza to our hands, or leave it in the hands of Hamas until they decide that it's too heavy for them and they volunteer to give it to somebody else. The decision so far has been that we should adopt what we call stage 3 of the war, which focuses on local raids wherever we see a new force of Hamas regrouping, and take care of that, and not take responsibility of the control of the territory. That is the policy that we have adopted until now. There's a debate on that in the government. Some people think that we should do more than just that. But the security establishment, I would say, is against it. And this has been debated in the cabinet for several times without any decision made. And so by elimination, the way we adopt is the stage 3 that the security establishment is in favor of. That's where we are. And as I said before, this is a milestone. Eliminating Sinwar is a milestone. One of the things it has to force us to think again about whether we should stick to this policy or not.
And I mean, let's talk about that policy, because you mentioned Jabalia, right? We entered it now for what is the third time since the start of the war. There are many Palestinian civilians who have been there. Hanan mentioned that as well. I mean, is this kind of a final stretch? Could defeating Hamas in Jabalia specifically mark the end of the war, or will it just continue as Hanan's describing? I don't know, another year, 2 years, Qatar, Turkey involved? What do you think?
I want to say something about strategy, okay? From the beginning of the war, and we are now for more than a year now, everybody in Israel is asking, what is the strategy? And also at the world, they asking, what is the strategy? The strategy is that we have to eliminate Hamas, and we have to make them to decide that they are finished. And it's step by step. Step by step, that's it. And we need the patience for it. Because they have patience for long years. They have to understand that the idea of eliminating Israel, the idea of putting Israel from the sea to the river is not something that they can use anymore. And this is meaning a surrender. And when we need a full surrender, it will happen step by step. In Gaza, it will happen step by step in Lebanon, and the Iranian regime will understand they can't eliminate Israel anymore. That's why their strategy is step by step.
So the psychological war.
And what we see now in Jabalia is one of the steps. It's just one of the steps to them to understand morally that they can't finish Israel. They have to feel and to understand that Israel is here for good. And then we will be able to build something else.
So, you know, reports are actually suggesting that Sinwar's assassination has shaken the Iranian regime quite heavily. In fact, that the Ayatollah had placed a lot of hope in Sinwar and now might be getting a little bit nervous. You know, so do you...
And Sinwar had a lot of hope on Iranian, okay? And it didn't happen.
And there's been many other leaders, you know, that have been assassinated as well. So what actions do you think that fear might provoke from Iran? Why don't you take that for a minute, and then Hanan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that the Palestinian is thinking still that Iran will save them. They thought about it on the Hezbollah, and they see now that
but my
it's not a
question is,
solution.
will Iran save them?
I think that Iran now understand that they can't win Israel. And we just have to explain them till the end that we will have no chance that it will happen, and they will understand it because we will strike Iran, and they will feel it. They will have the most bad strike that they felt, and then maybe they will understand that Israel is for good, and what will be the impact on the Palestinian, that they will understand that Iran is not the savior.
Do you agree?
Well, Iran built for the last 30 years with Qasem Soleimani a very well-established strategy of reinforcing its allies, proxies, what we call, they don't call them proxies, we call them the front of support for the Palestinians, resistant. A lot of money, a lot of energy for the 30 years, and now they're standing, let's say, I would say in the last year, and specifically in the last 3 months, everything is falling apart. You know, in Gaza, Israel got over. Hamas is no more a military threat. All their equipment and tunnels and whatever they did for 20 years with a lot of money is gone. In the north, the surprise is even bigger. They are so frustrated, but they see eliminating Hassan Nasrallah and his followers. You know, there are two.
And everybody underneath down the line.
No, there are two. The first one, Hassan Nasrallah, and his let's say, headquarters are gone. Now it's the second headquarters and the followers are down in the bunkers. So they see the weakness. All the strategy of thousands of missiles attacking Israel, already the powers is diminished considerably. We don't know exactly how much, but they know and they understand. Now there's a void in Beirut. There is no leadership there in Hezbollah. And first thing you see, as I mentioned, yesterday started negotiation. Amos Hochstein and the Lebanese government and through them the Hezbollah.
So maybe soon by Hamas.
And the one thing is interesting, no mentioning of Gaza until I would say a month ago, it's go Hezbollah in Gaza, ceasefire here and ceasefire there. There's no mentioning anymore of ceasefire in Gaza. They want to save Hezbollah, their prime asset, the Iranians.
Right.
Want to save their prime asset. They're neglecting the Hamas, and the Hamas understood and see it.
So I'm going to ask one last question because we're really running out of time. And Yossi, I want to direct this question to you. My question is this: why, after more than a year of war and the assassination of so many terror leaders, as Hanan just alluded to, has Israel not felt comfortable to declare victory in really any capacity? Why have we not actually won the war? Give us some final thoughts, really 60 seconds as we close up the show.
Well, I think because we haven't won the war yet. We accomplished a lot of achievements, and we eliminated a lot of our adversaries and enemies, but we have not won the war, because winning the war would be establishing a new order in the Middle East that see the collapse of the Iranian-led axis and the replacement of that axis by a much more stable situation that would lead to cooperation between us and the moderate Arabs. That's going to be the new order that Israel is looking for, with removing the threat from the north, removing the threat from Gaza, and removing the threat from Iran. That would be the full, complete victory that everybody's
So the full
forward.
victory would be to actually replace the Iranian regime. It's not even about Hamas, Hezbollah, or any of the other proxies. Well, that's all, unfortunately, the time that we have this evening. I want to really thank our guests for being here and sharing your insights and your analysis. For more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at ILTV.tv. Thanks for watching Insider. Have a safe and pleasant evening.